6 concepts shape the study of psychology: bias, causality, perspective, measurement, change, and responsibility. They guide how we evaluate research, identify limitations, and interpret findings. Bias is a systematic deviation from the truth. It can appear in research, in interpretation, and in behavior. In research, bias takes many forms. Researcher bias occurs when expectations influence results. A researcher expecting improvement unconsciously measures progress more generously. Participant bias happens when people change their behavior because they know they are being observed. They act healthier, kinder, or more disciplined simply because they know they are being watched. Sampling bias arises when the group studied does not represent the larger population. Study of stress drawn only from university students is used to explain stress in all adults. Confirmation bias occurs when evidence is interpreted to fit existing beliefs. Data that supports the hypothesis is emphasized, while contradictory results are dismissed as anomalies. Cultural and gender bias happen when findings favor certain groups over others. Androcentrism is what occurs when psychological norms based on Western male samples are applied universally. In interpretation, bias shapes how results are understood. Bias often reflects the researcher's own theoretical lens of the world, where what is seen is filtered before it is known. In behavior, bias appears in cognitive shortcuts, stereotypes, and discrimination, because the mind's fallacy is that it favors speed over precision. Recognizing bias is a step toward clarity. Causality is the relationship between variables, where one variable causes changes in another. Human behavior is complex, shaped by biological, cognitive, and sociocultural factors. Stress levels may reflect genetics, thought patterns, and social environment at the same time. Experiments can be controlled to isolate these influences, but some questions remain. Are the effects direct, or are other variables involved? Are they short-term or long-term? An intervention may improve mood immediately, but fade once conditions return to normal. Understanding these relationships allows psychologists to describe, explain, and sometimes predict behavior. If a change in one condition is consistently followed by a change in behavior, causation is suggested. Careful research design and attention to bias make causal links more reliable. Perspective is the lens through which behavior is interpreted and explained. In IB psychology, the 3 approaches, or perspectives, biological, cognitive, and sociocultural, form the content framework. Different theories and models offer additional perspectives. For instance, aggression may be explained through brain chemistry, learned beliefs, or cultural norms. Through memory models, memory failure can be described as decay, interference, or reconstruction. Each perspective explains part of the behavior, but not all of it. Considering multiple perspectives helps us understand behavior more fully. Perspective is now central in the syllabus. It is simply the lens we use every day to connect content to real-world examples. Measurement is how we collect data about behavior. It is how we record and gain knowledge. Measurement can be quantitative, using numbers, or qualitative, using observations and descriptions. Choosing the right method is crucial. The quality of measurement affects the credibility of research. Examples include selecting the right data collection tools, evaluating research quality, and understanding the strengths and limitations of our measurements. Change is what we observe in one's behavior or processes when we manipulate and alter conditions. It can occur naturally, like a child's cognitive development or the progression of depression over time. Other change results from intervention, treatment for a disorder, strategies to improve relationships, or from reinforcement. Cognitive therapy reduces depressive symptoms by altering thought patterns. Comparing untreated and treated groups reveals the effects of intervention. Responsibility reflects the ethical role that psychologists hold. Research decisions affect real people. Findings influence diagnosis, education, and public policy. Since research affects people's lives, psychologists must consider the consequences and impact of their work. In the past, flawed research could harm minority groups. For example, poorly designed tests that incorrectly concluded a group had lower IQ. Responsibility, then, applies to the full research process, from designing and conducting studies to reporting results and applying the findings. And errors at any stage can distort conclusions. Safeguards include ethical practices like informed consent, protecting participants from harm, using animals responsibly, maintaining accurate data, and sharing results without misrepresentation. Altogether, the 6 concepts shape how evidence is judged, how conclusions are drawn, and how confidently we can speak about human behavior. Consider behaviorism. Skinner's work on pigeons explains behavior through conditioning and reinforcement. Conducted in laboratory settings, this approach offers control and predictability, but also reveals important limitations. First, complex human behavior is reduced to stimulus and response, overlooking thought, emotion, and personal meaning. Findings from animals are generalized to humans, raising questions about validity. And behavior is treated as environmentally determined, leaving little room for agency or choice. These limitations highlight why behavior must be explained using more than one approach. Psychology is not just about what we find, but how we arrive at our conclusions. We've covered the main ideas here, but for a deeper dive, including topics like agency for change, internal versus external validity, inter-rater reliability, and reflexivity, my notes provide a more complete breakdown. They're linked below if you'd like to explore further.